Hi everybody, this is Mr. Lowe. We are going to work on adding fractions with unlike denominators. We started this yesterday by looking at two fractions, 1/6 and 5/8, and we were able to find a common denominator. We found that common denominator in two ways, using the QCD method, which was the quick common denominator, QCD method, or the LCD method, which was the least common denominator. If I'm going to do the QCD, I am going to do 6 times 8, which would equal 48. But for today's purposes, I want to focus our attention on using the least common denominator. So if I'm going to add these two fractions, I am going to write them down as common denominators with the lowest common denominator. We're going to use this LCD method, which means I need to take 6 here and 8 here. I make my t-chart and I do times by 1, times 2, times 3, times 4, and we'll go to times 5. So 6 times 1 is 6, 6 times 2 is 12, 6 times 3 is 18, 6 times 4 is 24, and 6 times 5 is 30. So I list my multiples out. I do the same thing for the multiples of 8. 8 times 1 is 8. 8 times 2 is 16. 8 times 3 is 24. And right there, right here, is where I have my least common multiple. What that means now is I need to rewrite these two fractions, 1/6 and 5/8, as equivalent fractions, where 24 is my denominator. So let's go ahead and do that, just like we did yesterday. We said 8 times what equaled 24. I go over here and I see 8 times 3 is 24. And what I do to my denominator, I have to do to my numerator. 5 times 3 is 15. So 5/8 becomes 15/24. 5/8 becomes 15/24. And we're going to do the same thing with 6, 1/6. So 6 times something equals 24. I look over here and I see it's 6 times 4. What I do to my denominator, I must do to my numerator. 1 times 4, and that is going to equal 4. So now my two new fractions are 4/24 and 15/24. Now that I have common denominators, I can go ahead and add these two fractions. Because remember, guys, just like we said yesterday, you can never add fractions that do not have the same denominator, which is why we need to find the least common denominator to be able to do that. So now I can just add, and I add only my numerator. So now my answer is going to be something over 24. My denominator stays the same. And 15 plus 4 is 19. So 1/6 plus 5/8 equals 19/24. Again, 1/5 plus 5/8 equals 19/24. We're going to go ahead and do another example. And every single one of these is the same kind of examples you're going to need to see in your book. And I'll show you here in a second, as soon as we can get signed in. So now we want to do, let's do two new fractions. 1/9 plus 5/6. 1/9 plus 5/6. And I like to make a nice long equal sign down here at the bottom. Stack them up nice and tall. And now let's go over here. Let's make our LCD, our least common denominator, by doing our t-chart. And in my t-chart, I have a 9 here, and I have a 6 here, and I do 9 times 1, times 2, times 3. 9 times 1 is 9. 9 times 2 is 18. 9 times 3 is 27. And I can do 6. 6 times 1 is 6. 6 times 2 is 2. Hello. How about 6 times 2 is 12? That's what I meant. Sorry about that. And 6 times 3 is 18. And now I see, okay, look at that. I've got 18 here and 18 here. These two are my common denominators. So I need to rewrite 1/9 and 5/6 as a new fraction where 18 is my denominator. And I'll just go back and say, okay, well, 6 times what is 18? 6 times 3. I'm trying to figure that out. I can look over here at my t-chart. 6 times 3. What I do to my denominator, I have to do to my numerator. 5 times 3 is 15. We have 9 times 2 is 18, and 1 times 2 is 2. And then we're going to add 15 and 15 eighteenths plus 2 eighteenths is 15 and 2, 17 eighteenths. That's really pretty much what we're talking about. Let's do one more example, because I know a couple of you are going to have some questions on this. Here's our two new fractions. We're going to do 2/8 plus 1/2. And I'm going to make my t-chart. And I don't care how easy this is, I still want you doing the t-chart. 8 here, 2 here. 8 times 1 is 8, and I know this is going to be a 2, a 4, a 6, and an 8, because that's 2 times 1, 2 times 2, 2 times 3, 2 times 4. That gets us to 8 as my common denominator. Now, I want to rewrite these as two new fractions, where 8 is my common denominator. 2 times 4 equals 8. 1 times 4 equals 4. And then this one's just 8 times 1 and 2 times 1. Sorry. And now we can add. 2 times 1 is not 1. 2 times 1 would be 2. There we go. And now we can add. 4 and 2 is 6/8. Now, some of you are going to look at that and realize that 6/8 can be reduced to in simplest form or rewritten in lowest terms. And we know that 6/8 is equivalent to 3/4. And if you don't know how to do that, you're basically taking the numerator and denominator, you're doing just the opposite. You're going to rewrite it, but now we're going to divide by 2 for both of them. So 6 divided by 2 is 3, 8 divided by 2 is 4. So your book may ask you to rewrite the answer in the lowest terms, which is what probably will happen. Let's take a look real quick just to show you what some of these problems are going to look like. Oops. And just give you a quick idea. And that way I think you guys will be able to get started in class. You'll be able to answer or ask questions, and everybody should be good. So we're looking at 7.3. Let's go ahead and look at some of the practice buddy. I don't want to do practice buddy. Let's look at some of the actual written problems that you're going to do for homework buddy. So we got 10 of them. So we're just finding the sum. 1/3 plus 1/15. Again, just like we did before, just like we did right here, it was 2/8 and 1/2. Use that common denominator and write everything down. And they even tell you what's the least common multiple. They want that there. And then you're going to hit next. And then it's going to ask you to fill in, rename those fractions, and then add them. So try and stack them together just like we did in our first two examples, here and in the previous one. All right. As always, you guys are going to work. When you're done working, you can work on Khan Academy. I think that would be good. I would check Power School because grades are due. And then I will be in later on this afternoon. Have a great day, everybody.